Your joints don't just move, they're engineered. This video breaks it down. Ligaments stabilise, tendons transmit force, cartilage reduces friction, and synovial fluid keeps everything gliding smoothly. Together, these connective tissues protect your bones and power every jump, sprint, and lift. But when one structure fails, movement collapses. Want to see how each tissue works and why athletes rely on them? Let's go. Let's look at the basics of connective tissues and structures right away. Connective tissues are exactly what they sound like. They connect, support, and hold your body together. Think of them as the body's structural framework. They're made of cells sitting in a matrix of protein fibers, mainly collagen for strength and elastin for stretch, plus a gel-like substance that fills the spaces. Here's what they do. Tendons connect muscle to bone and transmit force. They're packed with collagen for pulling power. Ligaments connect bone to bone and stabilize joints. They mix collagen with elastin for controlled movement. Cartilage cushions your joints and absorbs shock. It contains special molecules that resist compression. Fascia wraps around muscles, organizing them and distributing forces efficiently. Bone provides structure, stores minerals, and makes blood cells. The key principle: structure determines function. Each tissue is built exactly for the job it needs to do, and that's what makes coordinated movement possible.
Every athlete has that one injury that changed everything. For most, it's connective tissue. ACL, Achilles, meniscus, rotator cuff, and here's what frustrates me. Most of these injuries happen because athletes and even coaches don't understand how connective tissues actually work. They don't know that structure determines function, that different tissues handle different forces, and that respecting these limitations is the key to staying healthy. Okay, we're back, and that changes today. We've already looked at the basics, so in this lesson, we're diving deep into connective tissue structure and joint function. That includes how tendons transmit force but can't stretch much, why ligaments provide stability but need a little bit of give, how cartilage absorbs shock but can't repair itself, and why fascia matters more than you think. Also, how joint structure determines movement capability. This is essential knowledge for IB sports science, but it's also the difference between a long, healthy, athletic career and chronic injuries. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or student, understanding this will change how you train and how you move. Let's explore the connective tissues and joint structures of the body. With that being said, let's dive in.
The objectives you should achieve by the end of this video include being able to outline the structure and functions of connective tissues, and outline the structure and functions of different types of joints and different classes of synovial joints. It's important to note here, the IB stipulate that knowledge at the cellular level is not assessed for connective tissues and joints. We've already looked at the first example and the basics, so let's dive deeper with the essentials. Tendons are tough cords made of tightly packed collagen fibers. Their job: connect muscle to bone and transmit force when muscles contract. Tendons have a special property: they can stretch slightly and spring back, storing and releasing energy. The Achilles tendon does this every time you run, acting like a biological spring. But here's the problem: tendons have poor blood supply, so they heal very slowly. Ligaments are tough bands connecting bone to bone. They're packed with collagen, giving them strength with limited stretch, perfect for stabilizing joints. The ACL is a great example, as it sits in your knee and stops your shin bone from sliding forward relative to your thigh bone. ACL tears typically occur from a dangerous combination, such as the knee collapsing inward, rotating, and bearing weight all at once. Imagine a three-dimensional web running throughout your entire body. That's fascia. This connective tissue network wraps around every muscle, organ, and body compartment. Fascia contains two types of fibers, collagen for strength and elastin for stretch. Together, they transmit forces between muscles and maintain connections throughout your body. There are three main cartilage types which serve distinct mechanical functions. Let's talk about cartilage, specifically hyaline or articular cartilage. This is the smooth, glossy tissue covering the ends of bones where they form joints. Cartilage does two critical things. It creates a low friction surface for smooth movement, and it distributes forces across the joint to protect the bone underneath. The major issue: cartilage has no blood supply. It's avascular, meaning it gets nutrients by absorbing them from synovial fluid, the lubricating liquid in your joints. This makes cartilage incredibly slow to heal, In fact, it barely heals at all. Next is fibrocartilage, a specialized durable type of cartilage found in high stress areas. The two main examples are menisci in your knees and intervertebral discs in your spine. This tissue is designed to handle both compression, squashing forces, and shear forces, sliding or twisting stresses. The third cartilage type is elastic cartilage. As the name suggests, it's flexible and springy. You find it in your outer ear and epiglottis, structures that need to bend but not bear weight. Elastic cartilage isn't relevant for joint function, but it completes the picture. The big principle, all three cartilage types, hyaline, fibrocartilage, and elastic, demonstrate how structure directly matches mechanical demands. Let's classify joints based on their structure and how much movement they allow. Starting with the least mobile, fibrous joints. These are found in places like your skull, where bones are connected by dense fibrous tissue. There's essentially no movement. The priority is protection, not mobility. Next, cartilaginous joints. Your intervertebral discs are the prime example. They're connected by cartilage, which allows limited movement and provides shock absorption. You can bend and twist your spine, but not freely. Finally, synovial joints. Your knees, shoulders, elbows, hips. These are built for maximum mobility with specialized structures. Smooth articular cartilage, lubricating synovial fluid, a protective joint capsule, stabilizing ligaments, and sometimes extra structures like menisci in the knee or labra in the shoulder for additional support. Shout out to visiblebody.com for the amazing infographics. Go and check them out. Synovial joints are the specialized subtype of joints required for different movements. Let's break down the 6 types. Ball and socket joints, like your hip and shoulder, move in multiple directions. The most mobile type. Hinge joints, like your knee and elbow, move in one plane, bending and straightening. Pivot joints, like the top of your neck, allow rotation. Condyloid joints, like your wrist, move in 2 planes, up, down, and side to side, found between the radius, scaphoid, and lunate bones of the forearm and wrist. Saddle joints, like your thumb base, allow the opposition movement that lets you grip. Gliding or plane joints between small bones in your hands and feet allow multi-directional sliding movements. Here's the key principle. There's always a trade-off between stability and mobility. Compare the shoulder and hip, both ball and socket joints, but very different. The shoulder has a shallow socket, which gives maximum mobility, but sacrifices bony stability. The rotator cuff muscles and labrum must compensate. Injury prevention focuses on scapular control and rotator cuff strengthening. The hip has a deep socket. This provides inherent stability for weight bearing, but limits movement range. Understanding this trade-off guides how we train and protect each joint. Now we've reached the interactive section of the video. We'll take a look at a hypothetical scenario for understanding connective tissues and joint structures for supporting movement. In this scenario, a competitive swimming club with 20 athletes aged between 14 to 18 are experiencing high rates of shoulder pain and injury. Head coach James notices that 40% of his swimmers report shoulder discomfort, with 3 athletes unable to train fully due to shoulder injuries over the past 6 months. Your task, using your knowledge of joint structure function relationships and connective tissue properties, recommend a targeted injury prevention program that addresses the structural vulnerabilities of the shoulder joint in swimmers. Let's take a look at the scenario specifics. Pause the video as it appears on screen. If you're unfamiliar with the sport, research first and then construct your recommendations. Possible solutions include a specific targeted injury prevention program, as seen on screen. This includes suggested phases of mobility, controlled movement development, strength work, and sport-specific integration. The rationale for each phase is evident, and we can see expected outcomes, which would look to improve range of movement, strength, and a reduction in reported shoulder pain scores from the athletes. You can check your answers against the suggested ones now. If you came close to this with your suggestions and recommendations, well done. Let's move on to some formative assessment and exam technique. In this section, we'll have a go at some quickfire multi-choice questions based on the connective tissues and joint structures content, which may appear in paper 1A. Pause the video here, have a go and see how you get on. Let's take a look at the mark scheme so you can self-assess. Okay, good stuff. Next, let's have a go at some data-based, short answer and extended response questions, which may appear on paper 1B and paper 2. For possible short answer and extended response style IB exam questions, you may be required to explain synovial joint movements with applied sporting examples, describe the different types of connective tissues and their functions, or discuss the joint classifications, including their structure and functions. You may also need to use calculations and equations outlined in the sports science data booklet where necessary. On screen, you can see some short answer questions related to the video content. Use the command term key to carefully consider the requirements of each DBQ and ERQ question and construct your answers with the appropriate level of detail. Pause the video now and give them a go. Now let's take a look at the answers and see how you performed. Take a moment to pause the video here to reflect and self-assess. That is the end of the content on understanding connective tissues and joint structures for supporting movement. We can finish by thinking about the following linking questions from the course guide between what we have covered in this video for topic B and topic A. A. 3.1. How does training affect the stability and movement of connective tissue? If you found the connective tissues and joint structures subtopic interesting, you may wish to pursue a scientific investigation in this area. On screen, you can see some sports science internal assessment ideas and key considerations you may wish to use to support with formulating a research question. To summarize, connective tissues, including bone, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and fascia, form the structural and functional basis of human movement. Joint classifications and synovial joint subtypes determine stability, mobility, and force transmission. Training produces specific connective tissue adaptations, but requires careful progression to avoid overload injuries. Applied knowledge informs injury prevention, rehab, and performance programming.
Perfect. You now understand the structural foundation. Tendons transmit force, ligaments stabilise, cartilage protects, fascia organises, and joints enable specific movements. But here's the reality check. All of this passive structure is useless without active muscle function. Think about it. You can have the strongest tendons and most stable joints in the world, but if your muscles can't contract properly, you're not moving anywhere. Next video, we're diving into muscular contractions. You'll discover how isometric contractions create stability without movement, how concentric contractions generate force, how eccentric contractions control movement and prevent injury, and why understanding contraction types is crucial for training and performance. Smash that subscribe button, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway, and I'll see you in the next lesson where we activate this system. Thanks for watching. Let's keep building this knowledge.